presentation. Okay, so welcome everyone to this session entitled Developing a Classroom Culture of Trust During Trying Times. And I'd like to introduce John Breckenfeld, who will be presenting for us today. So without further ado, over to you, John.
Thank you, Reese. And we're gonna, there will definitely be time for like small group discussion or Q&A. And I have a slideshow, Google Slides presentation that I'll go to right now to begin with. And all right, here's my presentation title again as it's loading. And I'll be detailing, okay, here we go. During trying times, so of course the pandemic era. Here's an outline and we'll look at all of these parts. So first of all, background and my context. I've been teaching for 10 years and I've been in Korea for 8 years doing ELT, and I've been at university for 5 years, 2 different campuses. And my current university is Hanguk University of Foreign Studies in Seoul, the Seoul campus. I teach communicative English and I have only one level, it's intermediate, but I have 4 class sections. So I repeat the same lesson 4 times, 4 or sometimes 6 sections. So I have 120 to 180 students per semester. And I'm getting my content from the past 2 years. I've received over 500 student evaluation surveys at the end of the semester that all the students complete for me, something that I prepare. And I've done qualitative and quantitative analysis of the survey results. I also get regular student feedback, which is basically a Google form questionnaire, and it's pretty much a lesson reflection that students often submit, and anecdotal feedback from students as well. And so for the goal, this is from my presenter abstract. During trying times, how should we design a classroom culture that promotes student buy-in? So getting students on board with what we're hoping we can do together in the class, with the class. And so trust is essential for me. That's my main answer to that question. Develop and focus on that classroom culture. And so think about your own experiences when you're at university or when you were younger. If you close your eyes for a few and think for 5 seconds, you'll probably see faces of your previous teachers and professors who stand out for positive or negative reasons. And so hopefully more positive. And what did they do to have a lasting impact on you? And how can we replicate our examples? And what are effective strategies that we should consider to use a lens of trust and developing as a whole class, as a group, a culture of trust? So a little more background defining trust. This article gave a very useful definition, and it says, trust is a matter of safety. Are you someone that students can be vulnerable with, or will your guidance or direction be harmful or beneficial? Those green highlights are my emphases. And next, Frances Frey from the Harvard Business School gave a very popular TED lecture called How to Build and Rebuild Trust. And she was referencing work that she had done with Uber. So even though she's targeting a major corporation, she's working with the leadership there and discussing how the leaders could develop trust from their team. And so as leaders of our classrooms, I think we can certainly make use of her findings. And she identified 3 component parts of trust. Those are authenticity, logic, and empathy. And so if you're thinking about students trusting in what we're doing, trusting in the leader, what is your weak point among those three? And so Frey, she argues, empathy is the most common weak point. And so just a rhetorical question, how can we show our students empathy, or how do we try to be empathetic with our students? And we'll come back to empathy in a few slides, another example. So logic, Frey is hopeful that our logic is sound, is adequate. And what we need to focus on is communicating our logic to our students, or communicating our expertise. And so she warns us, it's often our ability to communicate the logic that is in jeopardy, where we may not succeed. And so for me, I think among those three, that's my weak point. I noticed that, and I am thinking very carefully about that. How do I clearly and effectively communicate with my students? If my level of expertise is the highest, it might not matter if I can't get my message across to my class. Authenticity is quite simple for Frey. It's just be yourself, and students will notice. They'll recognize you're being authentic, and they'll be more likely to trust in what you're doing. So again, think about what's your weak point. And a lot of this workshop is going to be self-reflection. So thinking yourself about what you have been doing with your students, with your classrooms, and what has worked, maybe what hasn't worked, or how we're going to move forward for the upcoming academic year. Michael Free, our conference chair, he wrote this essay. Here he is, a few years back. I was co-workers with Michael for about 3 years at our previous university. And this is from the Co-TESOL Voices and October edition. So just a little plug as well for the valuable Co-TESOL resources that are available to members. So in this essay, Michael described an experience with a student where he noticed a university student was clearly distressed, was having a very difficult time. And Michael had a meeting with the student to hear what's going on. And after he heard about the situation, he right away just said, you need to go home, like go back home to your family, contact your professors and let them know you got to take care of yourself, and you should do that now. And it was actually what the student really needed to hear. And Michael was a little surprised that he had an impact. He was just sort of acting naturally in that event. And Michael defined compassionate empathy as feeling someone's pain and then taking action to help. And also Michael cited John Medina said that empathy works so well because it does not require a solution, it requires understanding. So how can we understand where our students are coming from? And thank you, Michael, for your wisdom. Paulo Freire, this quote flips trust a little bit, kind of inverts it. The trust of the people in the leaders reflects the confidence of the leaders in the people. And so substitute people for students and think about how confident are we in our students. And Carol Dweck from Mindset, her landmark book, and the Fixed versus Growth Mindsets. So believing that your qualities are carved in stone, or the belief that your basic qualities are things that you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. So let's put these ideas together. How much do we really trust our students' capability to improve? And how do we show students our confidence in them? And great, I believe there's like a summary here, what I've introduced up to this point. So from Francis Frey, authenticity, logic, and our ability to communicate with students, our logic or our expertise, and empathy. and think about safety or vulnerability of your classroom dynamic. How are we helpful or harmful? And what is our confidence in our students to have a growth mindset? So let's go to breakout session. Or you know what? We have a small group, so I don't think that's going to be necessary. Think about these factors and we can just discuss together your own self-analysis. And I can stop the share here too. Just take another look. Yeah, think about what has worked well for you in your classrooms, focusing on trust or developing trust. And or any questions you may have for me would be totally welcome as well. So anyone, do you have any questions or any comments just based on the past 10 minutes?
Hi, I'm just saying hello. Hello. Oh,
Hi,
Daniel.
yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I interrupted Daniel. You had a...
Oh, no, go ahead. And Daniel, hi.
Yeah, I was just about to say I am here, but I am actually moving right now and I'm cleaning my old apartment as I'm listening.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I'm trying to interact and trying to participate.
Okay.
But yeah, I am, tracking what you're saying. So I'm in between jobs. I start a new job on Tuesday at a university. But when I'm thinking about trust right now, I'm trying to, have trust in students, and that makes sense and seems like it'd be productive, but I don't have a ton of trust in my institution right now. There's just a lot of things that are up in the air. Some of it's just because I'm new, but others are just larger issues. I found out that the university did not buy WebEx licenses for all of the new professors. And so we're scrambling to figure out how I'm going to be teaching. And so I think that the students are going to pick up on that, on those larger issues that are coming down. And I'm trying to, create a solid environment where students, just get rid of that effective filter for, language learning. It's so important, but if I can't provide a stable learning environment, I'm really worried about how do I create that trust?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Actually, my whole slideshow, I don't touch on that significant factor. How does your classroom context your institution? How does it help you, or how does it potentially disrupt your ability to develop trust? So yeah, that's tricky. And for you, you're just getting started, so you still have you have a lot of waiting and seeing how it goes, maybe.
Yeah.
But your initial impressions are a little bit shady at the moment. That's
They're definitely,
tough.
There's a lot of good things I'm excited about and looking forward to. But there's so many things that are just up in the air a few days before classes start. And so,
yeah, I'm gonna touch on this later in the presentation if there's time. So last year, I think I wanted to share with students as much information as I could, try to be as transparent as possible, and just help them get prepared and help them understand what's going on. And actually, I think in some cases it backfired. Like, students gave me feedback that we get so many messages and there are so many updates that it's confusing, or eventually maybe they just, if I send 4 or 5 messages in a week, they stop looking at them as carefully. And so it's hard to find a balance. I'm working on that. Like, how do I consistently and concisely communicate with the students so I don't overwhelm them, and so but yeah, they deserve to be, you know, informed for sure.
Yeah.
So great. And Ewan, do you have any thoughts at the moment, or Reese?
Yeah.
I'll just say that, yeah, the first few weeks of a semester, based on my past experience of both, you know, face-to-face and online teaching, I've found that, you know, no matter what effort has to be made to build that rapport, you know, through icebreakers, through some kind of effort to make them feel comfortable in the classroom environment. So if you're talking about, yeah, the trust and the feeling of safety and so on, that, you know, I think in an online context, it is an uphill battle, even more so than, you know, it might be in the classroom, to really make them feel comfortable as soon as possible.
Right.
But, you know, there are certainly ways that students, if they get to know you, and then they have, you know, trust that you have their best interests in mind, and you're trying to help them as much as you can reach their goals. And if it just comes down to, like, maybe asking them about what do they want to achieve, what would they like to get out of a class. So I really think that's helpful. That first initial period of, you know, first week or second week even, can make a difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, semester is upon us, right? So making a first impression, that's huge. I think so. And I'm sure, yeah, like Frey or the experts would argue, it's so much easier. You got to start off on the right foot. If you're trying to come from behind, then that would be much more difficult. And so I will share, several examples what I had been doing last year when we were mostly online, and what strategies or what areas were successful for me. So I'll go back to the slideshow right now, and I'll check the time, and maybe I'll definitely try to come back here so we can have more discussion. So it's not just me doing all the talking. And okay, actually, yeah, anytime if anyone has an idea or a question, please just let me know. This can be can be kind of group oriented for sure. So let's continue a little bit more, trying to clarify some themes. This original article, I showed a definition. They identify 4 elements of building trust, and those are benevolence, integrity, competence, and predictability. And so for me, my own key areas I identified are based on this acronym SURE, and SURE stands for supportive, unforgettable, reliable, and effective. And let's put my 4 next to the 4 elements from that article. And I'm using an adjective form and they're using a noun form, but you can see some commonalities here, like supportive and benevolent, reliable, predictable, effective, and competent. And one more layer. So what Francis Frey was pointing out, authenticity, logic, and empathy. And I think Daniel also said 5 or 10 minutes ago, maybe we probably agree our conceptual understanding of trust and the potential value in developing trust, what those areas are. Our differences might be in our application, what we're trying to do individually, and our classroom context or our different institutions where we may be working. So despite potential differences, I really hope everyone can have some clear takeaways and things to think about moving forward for the upcoming term. And I will focus on my successes and challenges, what's been effective or ineffective for the past 2 years, particularly, and moving forward to 2021. And unfortunately, I predict, like 2020, this year is going to be tough, right? It will entail trying times. We can expect challenges. And I think some of us will be starting online in a week, next week, and then we might be moving back to campus. We might be doing some kind of mix. So it will be difficult again, like last year was. All right, let me explain more examples of this. These points from the acronym. Here they are again, and we'll start with supportive. And so actually, yeah, in the middle, I'll do 2 of them, and then maybe I'll stop the screen share and come back as a whole group and see what everyone's thinking, what your thoughts are. These 2 areas, peer interaction and making my classroom personable, I feel were the best ways it could be supportive, a supportive environment for students. So peer interaction examples were mostly from Zoom breakout rooms. Last year, 2020, we were online the whole time besides 3 weeks. In November, we tried to get back on campus for 3 weeks, and then the 3rd wave in Korea happened in December, and so we were back online again. And Zoom breakout rooms gave us teamwork every time we were together on Zoom, various activities. This was really key, language modeling. So in the end of semester surveys and the weekly feedback that students gave me, they very often said, my team members' English, it's really helpful for me, it's really inspiring. Their speaking level or their listening skills, their positive energy and their communication, or their writing samples as well. So that was very, very useful, a useful part of the Zoom breakout rooms, and unprecedented English usage. So my students, our university has a foreign studies focus. Many of them speak 3 or 4 languages. And so their English level, I believe, is relatively high. We are an intermediate class. And still, when they're with their peers, with Korean peers, they pretty much just speak in Korean together. And this is not a surprise. It's more natural and more efficient. So starting off, the first few weeks or first month of the semester is difficult because I challenge them to use only English. And they let me know, this is awkward. This is where we have so much silent time when nobody's talking. But little by little, they warm up to it and their communication increases significantly. And it becomes, a place and a time where they let me know. I never used English before with my Korean classmates, and it works and it's fun. It's effective. Some groups let me know we're friends now. This was sort of like a cherry on top of the experience, where they said we're gonna get together in 2 weeks after finals and hang out on winter vacation, for example. So that was really special. In general, the breakout rooms were kind of the biggest advantage of my year, especially fall semester last year. How is it personable and supportive in that way? So family time is pretty simple. Before the Zoom, the lesson officially would begin, we all log in for 5 minutes and we're kind of waiting to start class. And I would let my son come into the classroom. He's only 2, and he liked to come and wave at my students and say hi and kind of smile and be super cute. And they really liked it. And so that was just a small way to make things a little more personable with the student-professor dynamic, and what I see as an advantage of doing online remote learning. And flipped classroom video anecdotes. So our Zoom lessons happen on Thursday and Friday every week. Well, for 12 weeks, almost every week. The first half of the week, they watch an asynchronous video. It's flipped classroom. It helps them prepare for the upcoming Zoom lesson. And in the middle of that video, I always pause for a minute and I just tell them a story about myself, a quick anecdote, just to let them get to know me a little bit more on a personal level. And again, thinking about this supportive dynamic or a personable experience for the students. Unforgettable. How can we have an impact? What is our impact? Positive, or hopefully it's not negative or neutral. And think about your teachers again and your own impact. So your experiences as a student and as an educator. This is Dr. Guido, one of my professors, my freshman writing professor in 2001. And her class had a huge, huge impact on me. She's one of the professors I remember first if I reflect on my own experiences. And I don't know if the content she taught us, maybe I had been taught already in high school, but if I had, it didn't work at that time. It didn't stick until I was with Dr. Guido. And it was pretty cool because 15 years later, I had my own freshman writing class in Korea. And so I taught them the same content. And I told them the story. I was a freshman 15 years ago, and I got this content. I'm sharing it with you now. Please pay attention. And I contacted Dr. Guido and let her know what was going on. And she very warmly received my message 15 years after we had been together in 2001. So I thought about it, her empathy, her logic, and her communication, her authenticity. These are the components that Francis Frey identified. And Dr. Guido had the highest level of these, of all of them. And that helps explain to me why it was so effective, what she was doing. And in the fall, it'll be 20 years after I had class with Dr. Guido, and I'll tell my students again, 20 years ago, I was exactly in your position as a freshman. This is what my professor taught us, and I'm teaching it to you now. So it will be a charming full circle experience I'm looking forward to. So thinking about a negative or a neutral possible impact. And sometimes I think maybe students might finish my class and a few weeks later just kind of forget about the class. That might happen. And oh no, Paulo Freire warns us. The educator also has the duty of not being neutral. So what can we do to have lasting positive impacts, right, on our students? And many times we won't know. After the semester's over, we'll probably never talk to those students again, but let's keep that in mind for sure. And before we move on to the next letter, we have a little more time. So any other ideas at the moment? Any other comments or questions for me?
I was just wondering, John, you were talking about that personal connection, and I do think that it's something I'm trying to find ways to do, especially in the online classroom. I think you made a really poignant point about this is actually an opportunity for students to kind of see your life, so to speak. You can share more. You can, and I think that's something that has inevitably happened when you have your background. They can see where you are, and everyone in the classroom, in fact, can kind of see where they are and what they are doing. So while that might sometimes be seen as a negative, that we have to be maintain privacy and all of that, I actually quite like that openness that you were speaking to, that kind of sharing.
Right now this is just the blank wall, but on the other side of my screen there's like a bookshelf, so it looks a little more like a room where somebody actually lives, and that's how I usually That's how I usually point the camera in the other direction.
I try
Definitely.
to use different backgrounds quite frequently,
Yeah,
and those backgrounds will be a place that is important to me, and I'll
okay.
sometimes use them as kind of some form of stimulation or elicitation, you know, where students get talking about that place or what they think that place is, and I think that can sometimes be quite a good tool to engage students.
Definitely. Would that be like a virtual image?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, it'll be quite a lot of work, I suppose,
right. Okay.
to build a background.
Right, to go to different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. You and Daniel, any thoughts at the moment? Anything? Okay, I have a couple more things. We'll maybe take 5 more minutes and then just check in again before we wrap it up. All right, so 10 minutes left, I believe. R on this acronym is reliable. And so reliable, predictable, and focus on my communication, right? Which I think it could be a weakness, right? There's a balance. I'm trying to figure that out still. So what are some examples? Vulnerability, I would briefly let them know, my students know, I'm having a hard time in 2020 as well. Like I'm cooped up at home. I'm anxious. I'm a little bored. I want to go see my friends, whatever, and those sentiments. And actually last year in April, my cousin back home got COVID-19 and she had a very difficult time with it. She's better. She's not fully recovered still, but for a few weeks, it was really scary. And eventually I told my students about that experience. Like I let them know, like this is hitting home for me on a very personal level with my own family. So trying to give them, we're in solidarity together, right? Students, professors, students around the world are experiencing what you are going through. And the encouragement, just trying to be as positive as possible. Whenever they see me, like on my asynchronous videos, during Zoom lessons, and hoping that can be contagious for them. Give them a little energy boost. Safety notice is quite simple, just consistently always reminding them. They hear it all the time, I'm sure it's nothing new, but make sure you put on your mask whenever you leave home, follow all the guidelines, be careful, and take care of yourself and take care of your family and those around you. So those are my communication examples. Consistency and delivery, just simply the lesson structure. So again, eventually we had 12 Zoom lessons in a semester. During week 1 is registration week and exam weeks, and maybe another week we were off, but we had 12 weeks of Zoom. The lesson structure was quite simple. We're all together in the main session and then put them into small groups in breakout rooms for 5 to 7 minutes. Back to the main session all together, back to a breakout room. So alternating that dynamic of whole group and small group. And the students, it was predictable and consistent, and they enjoyed Zoom lessons. They really liked it, and they let me know in their feedback. So that was very positive, especially the breakout room time. Follow the syllabus is quite simple. Just use the document to our advantage. If students see the document and they understand what's on the document is what is happening, it'll be much easier for them to trust what we're doing, what our plan is for the whole term. Finally, effective. So I'm thinking mostly about content here. And examples. These fun content areas were very effective with my students. I'm in a very favorable situation where I can choose a lot of the content that I use. We have a required textbook, and I have it right here. It's not bad, Nat Geo, but fortunately the professors can decide how much or how little we use the textbook. I end up using it 20 or 30% of the time. 20 or 30% of the content comes from the textbook, but I do shape the exams around academic skills from the textbook. And then I use these supplemental content areas to reinforce those academic skills. And the students, most of them let me know. I ask them about the textbook and they say it's not that helpful. Let's do more fun stuff. And a couple they say let's do more of the textbook, so you can't please everybody there. And next, personalized would be group projects. I like to give them choice, like A, B, or ABC options. So they have a few options to consider. Option D, I like to do as well, where it's a free choice. They can create their own topic or select a specific content area they're interested in. Just check in with me, make sure we're all on the same page, and then give them the green light, say, go for it. And English goals and life applications, I really like to remind them the semester, it's a few months, it's not that long. We're on Zoom together for 20 hours maybe, or in the classroom for 30 or 40 hours if we're on campus. So what's going to happen after the semester's over, and how does it continue? How's the classroom, like, can it be a springboard for you in your future and your English life applications? Those kinds of sentiments. All right, so here are the 4 areas I just described, my own experiences. I'll quickly go to a summary before we do another check-in together. Those areas I would identify as my strengths on the left. What went well? What were my biggest successes? And I'll explain a few areas for improvement. Again, how can I most effectively communicate with students using concise and consistent messaging? So at the moment, I think I'm going to limit the messages. On Monday, I'll be posting, I believe this could change, but I might be posting asynchronous videos again. So that's at one point. Then maybe Wednesday night or Thursday morning before Zoom lessons, I'll send another message twice a week. That sounds good. So it's a reliable and consistent time they can expect to hear from me. So referring students back to the syllabus, I think the syllabus has worked well, but I got to keep reminding them, okay, if you want to know about April, May, or June, here's the document, take a look, and you can see what's coming up next. So here are, you can check these Google Slides out right there, that QR code, and you can check out my references as well with the other code. And that's my email, or you can use Discord if you have any other message you later on you want to check with me about. And that's it for the slideshow. Okay, we got a couple minutes. Any final thoughts from anyone or questions for me?
I guess I have a question. When thanks for the talk. When I kind of read your abstract, I was thinking about Zoom in particular and how to get students to kind of trust, if that's the right word, being on Zoom and showing their face and setting expectations. So, I mean, in my case, I kind of told them they should use a camera, they should use a microphone, but I would understand if they had like technical problems.
Right.
First semester, I think that worked pretty well. And I think most of the second semester, it worked mostly well. But I always had some students who seemed very reluctant to be on camera. I would see maybe like 10% top of their head. Right. And I've heard other people kind of talk about how they're much stricter and they set, whereas I'm more sort of laissez-faire, and I feel like 2/3 of the people show their face, and if someone doesn't want to show their face, I feel like they're uncomfortable for some reason, and I can't force them to do it. So what are your views on that? How strict
so
are you?
a couple things come to mind. Like I make a joke out of it. I'll demonstrate. Like I say, if I go like this and I'm talking to the wall, or I'm not looking at the camera, it doesn't work. That's not the way we communicate. when you're in the classroom in a small group, you'll be making eye contact with your classmates. And that's essential to have the most effective communication and connect with each other. So I try to make it light. I don't want to pressure too much. When we're in the main session, I will, sometimes not every time, but occasionally I'll ask, please turn on your camera. I see just if I don't see everybody, let's all make eye contact together. I also give students a chance to request to move and change their breakout room. So my approach in the beginning, I change the rooms regularly every week, or maybe even during, if it's a 2-hour lesson, maybe at the end, I'll switch the rooms around so they can meet other students and interact with different students. So I give them a chance to let me know if somebody's just not being, if it's not working, it's not working out. They can let me know to request to move. So, but that is definitely a challenge because, yeah, I go and I visit the breakout rooms here and there, but most of the time they're on their own, right? We're not, it's really, it's up to them. So it's their own personal, and I remind, this is your initiative. You'll be with your team. I might drop in for a couple minutes, but you're on your own. And so please take the initiative and use the time as well as you can. That's kind of my approach, which I think is, yeah, it could be better too, right? I'm sure there must be better strategies.
Yeah, I
So,
guess it's the start of the semester, so I'm wondering what guidelines to set down at the start of semester. I mean, usually I give them my expectations and then just see how it goes. And
okay,
mostly don't have any problems, but yeah, I
right.
wondered.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I honestly need to think that over a little bit more myself, because yesterday I made my first course info videos I'll share during week 1, and then week 2 will be an asynchronous video, flipped classroom video to prepare for a Zoom lesson. So at that video, then I'll explain this is how Zoom should work. This is what we're going to try to do. So that's definitely a good, yeah, it's important to keep in mind and make sure that we are sure about our plan and how we're going to enforce the plan, whatever approach we end up taking. So so I don't know if I gave very much of an answer.
No, I mean, I was just sort of reflecting. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a sort of, yeah, an answer to that question.
Yeah, I think I found maybe just my own approach, just again trying to be as positive as I can and reminding them this might be a unique chance, the only time in the week when you can speak in English. For many of you, that will be the case, right? And to say this is a valuable opportunity. And so you need to do your best to connect with your team. Yeah, those kind of positive vibes, I hope are effective. But yeah, there's work to be done for sure. I think so. Great. And I guess, yeah, we're maybe a little over time. If there's any, yeah, we could wrap it up, or any other final thoughts from anyone.
All right. Yeah, I think that's all for me. And thank you very much, John. I think we learned a lot from this, and I like the reflective kind of theme of this workshop, to get us thinking about how we can build those different aspects of trust and connection and empathy and authenticity, and those are all things we need to be continuously reflecting on, I think.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for hosting, and Daniel and Ewan, thanks for joining today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.